Is a picture really worth 1,000 words? Oh man, I'm sorry, I hate that cliche. Anyway. Infographics are a favored form of conveying information for a lot of organizations which we don't think of as being all that prestigious. USA Today, CNN, Time Magazine, they might have been respectable at some point, but nowadays, Nonetheless, though, infographics are being used by an increasingly large population of designers and people who just want to convey information. That's why we're going to spend a little time figuring out not only our assignment, but how to do this stuff good. If you want people to really get your facts, really get your message, then you need to make sure they can picture your message fairly clearly. And there's nothing better for getting someone to picture your message than pictures. This is what an infographic does. An infographic can give you information on almost anything and clarify almost any subject. Will it give you a deep understanding? It might not be as deep understanding as a massive report or something, but it might be able to give a lot of quick bite information all at once. Say you wanted to know the difference between ninjas and zombies. This is a good way to go about doing it. Strengths: cat-like reflexes and lightning speed for ninjas. For zombies, they move in packs, and they're virtually invincible. They're very hard to kill. Zombies always walk slow. They always walk slow. They never run. Anyway, it's not just about ninjas and zombies. We can even get information about more important things. Like, is Bigfoot real? Did you know that Bigfoot would be an omnivore? You want to learn even more detailed, even more important information? How about the weird ways people die in America? Caught between objects and mechanical forces, 103. Fall out of a building, 533. Excessive cold, 700. I love that almost 900 people die from a fall from house furniture. A lot of these I just don't get. Finally, some of the really important stuff, all the different kind of penguins. Now, to be quite serious, infographics are fun for fun kind of stuff, but if you want to drive home a real point about a serious topic, this is one on mental health. The estimated cost of untreated mental illness is 100,000 million, 100 billion, 7 suicides per hour. This is going to really make sure you remember these things. So why use an infographic to begin with? Well, people are very capable of picking up visual information. Lots of people respond better to visual information than text or speech. Users have a lot of time to invest in the pictures because they grab their attention. 79% of users will scan anything they come across. So this is something that's designed for scanning. This brings us to the infographic assignment. 1 page, full color visual. Check your own class's major assignment sheet for the proper dates. The scenario. The mission here is to create awareness in the general public of a specific issue in your group's area of concern. Research some key area problem which needs publicity and condense that information to a visually engaging image ready for mass distribution. Should be formatted as a real-world document. Make this look like something that would actually go out. The infographic should include actual data derived from verifiable evidence garnered from research. So you will have sources. The infographic needs to be persuasive in tone, but also be visually engaging. Your target audience will be the general population, and this is a real change from anything else we have done so far, because this is directly reaching out to the public at large. Submit this as either a JPEG or a PDF, If you pull images or technical data from an outside source from that research we were talking about, please place the appropriate citation in a footnote or endnote so it doesn't mess up the flow of the document would be good. This one definitely should be visually appealing, and it definitely should use graphics, because that's the mission here. Give us some basic facts about something going on in your field that we need to know about, and do so in a pretty way. Now, you may have never done an infographic. Before putting together this PowerPoint, I didn't ever do an infographic myself, but you already have access to a lot of tools that can do stuff. PowerPoint's a very good tool for putting together infographics. Yeah, it's not the most powerful graphic manipulator in the world, but it's easy and can do an awful lot. And if you get some infographic templates, you can put together really nice work in here. If you would prefer to use Word, most people hardly ever use even a tenth of the power of Word. You can get infographic templates for Word and change them around to your own needs, including changing text boxes, changing colors, changing shapes and sizes. If you want to put together charts, Excel is a great place to put together charts. So you can use the information you already have. You can use the programs you already have. If you want to get into using more complex stuff like Photoshop, feel free. Personally, I'm a big fan of GIMP, which is an open source Photoshop alternative. It's more powerful than I will ever need, and it's free. And if there's something that I wanted to do that I couldn't actually pull off in PowerPoint, GIMP is my way to go. And I don't have to pay for it. That's good. Some tips for creating an infographic. Choose a goal. Stay focused. Use graphics. It's part of the name. You really want to be shoving visual information at people. You want to keep it short and sweet, because focus is a good thing here. You want their attention to be locked in at all times. You want it to be easy to read. Stick to a color palette to make sure it doesn't get away from you in terms of design. We'll go over all these. Let's go for a 5-step procedure for doing an infographic. First, identify the goal. What's something interesting in your field that people need to know about? What's a question that they need to get some data for, some facts? Once you identify the big goal, come up with some subpoints, and then start doing your research. Collect data. Figure out some actual good numbers that you can use to start convincing your reader. Visualize that data. How are you going to present the data to them in an image? Are you going to do different types of charts? There are any number of ways to convey information. If you just want to convey simple information, a pictogram or a donut chart would work. If you want to set up a comparison contrast, a bar chart, a pie chart would be a great way to do that. If you want to show change, a timeline or a line chart. If you want to show organization, a Venn diagram or a table would be a great way to go about it. There's ways to show relationships with scatter plots, and so on and so forth. There are lots of different ways you can go about getting visuals, getting information arranged in a visual form. Once you've figured out how you're going to present each bit of information, come up with a basic shape where you're going to put the bits of information. Are you going to have a rectangular sheet? Are you going to have a long, thin sheet? Where exactly are you going to put stuff in a good order that will be easy to digest for your reader? Then, add style and visual appeal. These 5 steps we'll walk you through. It's focusing on the goal first, then getting the data to support it, and then getting everything to look good and be well organized. So let's go through a sample of this. You've been in here for a while, so you might have a friend of yours who's thinking about taking Dr. DuBose for next semester. And you know the question they're going to ask you, right? Is Dr. DuBose evil? Well, the problem here is that this isn't a particularly great question for them to ask. At least it's not a great question for you to put together an infographic on because it's a single, easy yes-no question. There's very little data you can give them, yes or no. So you want to change the question to something that will give you a bit more material to work with. Open-ended questions that you can answer in a few different ways is a good approach here. So instead of is Dr. DuBose evil, how evil is Dr. DuBose? This is our goal. We want to show how evil Dr. DuBose is. The next stage is to figure out how we're going to get information that shows how evil Dr. DuBose is. He has a beard. He has tattoos. He's politically leftist. He doesn't like cute animals. His ego's getting worse. He once ate a shrimp sandwich on a small plane. Should you eat any kind of fish product in an enclosed environment? He's committed evil acts. And there's a list of some of them. So we have got a few things we can put together. There are 7 things here. So we need to figure out how to present 7 little chunks of information. He has a beard. The assumption is that having a beard will mark you as evil to some way or shape. You know, if you ever go to the evil dimension, everyone has goatees. Well, one way to show just how evil someone is to have a chart marking pure good to pure evil. Where does Dr. DuBose stand? That's what the line would show. So you're showing relationships in a scale. The next one was he has tattoos. Well, how many tattoos? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pictograms are good. You'd be really worried if I had a half tattoo somewhere. Politics. Politics is a great thing that people usually say plays into evilness. Well, Dr. DuBose, he's increasingly leftist. Notice he's so far left he's even off the chart. He doesn't like cute animals. He doesn't want a dog. He doesn't like dogs. He doesn't really care too much about rabbits, although he did eat one once. And he's a little bit frightened of horses. He's not the kind of guy who ever wants his own pony. What another sign that Dr. DuBose is evil? Increasing ego. It's going up. He once ate a shrimp sandwich in a small airplane. This is a nice, good pictogram that shows shrimp on a sandwich in a small enclosed space. Do you have to explain why that's evil? I don't think so. And then he's committed some evil acts. He's played Dungeons and Dragons. He's played heavy metal. He's watched My Little Pony. When he watched Star Wars, he rooted for the Empire, not the Rebel League. Now, how are you going to range all these things on the page? There's 7 of them, so you could put them in a septagon? But that's probably not going to be the best way, because it's a weird shape and nobody would recognize it. What we're doing here is a little bit of a framing thing. Now, if there were 2 more items, you could have a nice 3x3 grid, and that would be cool. But as it is 7, we can figure out something nice and neat looking to put in here, like maybe Dr. DuBose himself being evil. So we have a layout. We have a basic plan of where everything is going to go. The next job is figuring out how we make this look good. Now, I'm not really sure this is a particularly evil font. It doesn't really fit the kind of mood we're going for on here. So that's where I decided to start in terms of design. And I went on to Dafont, DAFONT.com, and looked for cool looking fonts. What I ended up finding was one called Mrs. Monster. This is the expanded version of it. And I thought, hey, if we're going to use a good scary looking font, a good eroded looking font, anything that's kind of a little bit rough looking, it would be a good thing to put in the title. You don't want to use something that has the eroded, distorted quality for large chunks of text, but if you're looking to grab someone's attention, this is a great way to do it. Now I just have to find a complementary font, because you don't want to use this font for everything. It's not going to stand out as much as it would if you have a different looking font with it. So that's where the typography ties in. We have the top heading and the bottom heading. Would we want to have another cool, evil-looking font like this? It's going to be a little bit too much. So I found 5 other options. Cocoa Goose. I don't know who names these things. Cool Helvetica. Cool Helvetica. Geosans Light. Antipasto Pro. I don't remember the name of this. I just left bottom heading on here. Probably should have put the name, but it doesn't really matter because we can look to see what's working here and what's not. Geosans Light is too light. I mean, we're not using body text here. These are going to be subheadings for each of the entries. And if they're subheadings, they can still be a little bit darker than this. This would kind of get lost. Same thing goes for this one on the bottom, and kind of Antipasto Pro just doesn't look right. Cocoa Goose, it's all wavy and whooshy. Is that a great match for the nice distorted font here? Cool Helvetica is just a little bit cool, so it's not too formal looking to fit in with our Mrs. Monster font. It's dark enough to where it's going to stand out, so we're going to use Cool Helvetica. It is our choice. But our choices aren't really stopped here, because when I downloaded Cool Helvetica from my computer, I found out that it came with 4 different varieties. Cool Helvetica RG, regular, condensed, compressed, and crammed. Now, you want to use a condensed font when you want to minimize the physical space something takes up. Sometimes it's very appropriate. Cool Helvetica cramped seems a little bit too cramped for me. It's really crammed in there together. Yeah, it lives up to its name. As it is, since we're not in a text-heavy document, I think that we could probably stretch out the space. So I'm going to use Cool Helvetica RG, the regular one. Now, we have the question of, what colors are we going to use? There's a lot we could talk about color theory. This is the color wheel, and you can find colors that complement each other by looking at a color and looking for what's exactly opposite. Violet complements yellow. They go very well. Green and red, there's lots of contrast there. Blue, green, and red, orange, very different. They stand out. If I wanted to go a bit more monochromatic, I could pick 3 that were next to each other. Green, and yellow. Analogous color choices. I could go secondary, where you pick at 3 points of the triangle. Yellow, green, red, orange, and blue, violet. Intermediate, which is woo! I could split the contemporary. Or I could do what I ended up doing and get lazy and going to a website which suggests color palettes. That's what I did. I went to coolers.com. They also have an app that they're pushing quite heavily. And the cool thing is, every time you hit the space bar, it will spit out another 5 color palette for you. And it will give you the specific coding for each color so you can program it in. If you have this HTML 6-digit/letter code, you can get the precise color in Word and PowerPoint and whatever. So I hit it a few times until I saw something I liked. Because, well, let's face it. If we're doing a chart about how evil someone is Pine Tree really a good choice? No. So I hit it a few times, and I ended up with Prussian Blue, Maximum Red, Orange, Maximum Yellow Red, Lemon Meringue. I don't know how evil Lemon Meringue is, but Maximum Red and Orange and Yellow are all what we would consider bright, hot colors. And bright, hot colors are going to be better for action, for lively-looking things. We have some complementary lemon meringue and Prussian blue to give us some variety. So we've got 5 colors to work with. Now we just have to get everything to look good. We've got a layout. We've got the information. I quite nicely already got icons for everything. So let's see how the final document finished, and I'll walk you through my choices. I thought that the orange would be a great outside color. It's giving me enough contrast with this blue to where the headline is easy to read, and the bright color pulls you in. Now, you don't want to look at massive amounts of this bright color because it would start to get on your nerves. And that's the reason I didn't do the red background, too. Red is a bright, hot color, but you don't want to be staring at it the whole time. I wanted to have an inset area with a lighter color so I could still use the orange as the attention grabber, but have something we could bounce off of and put the images in front of and still have everything ready to read. I put the individual icons and such where I had them in my layout stage. I changed the colors to wherever possible. The main colors were the same blue that we're using for the headlining font. Had that orange, and I figure since I'm already using the orange and blue here, they were using them in opposite ways here, with the outline of the dark blue and the orange for the headlines would give a nice level of contrast there. I filled in colors on the chart here, moving from the orange to the red, so it shows a little bit of increase. On this chart, I changed the gradation to the red, which we have, incorporating yet another color, incorporating the same red on the things that I don't like, and the attention grabber in here. I put an icon of myself. I have one, but I'm a musician, and I have to think about marketing myself. And it gives a nice central focus point in here. When I look at this thing, after I see the headline, it pulls me into the center because the bright outside pulls me into the more mellow in the center. I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points all radiating outside of my face because there's not a specific order I have to read these in. If I was doing information which built up on itself, then I'd want to put these in a definite pattern which would guide the eye in a direct path. Here, we just have to radiate out from the face, and you can do that in any direction. And it kind of makes sense. I would think that when you look at this, you're going to see the headline, look down to the face, probably move over to the left, has to commit evil acts, and then follow the rest as a semicircle back up to he doesn't like cute animals. And now, if your friends ask you, should they take Dr. DuBose? You can show them this chart. Remember, ultimately, the document needs to be usable. When you look at the infographic that I created, I did actually go through a few varieties of it. 5 entries, I tried to put them in a pentagon shape, but it just didn't look right. It looked arbitrary, even though it wasn't. I tried 6, but then I just filled up the page with little blocks, and I wanted some breaks. 7, I think, works well for this one, and it provides a good looking document that's still fairly easy to read. Remember, it's got to be usable. See you in the next video.